All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Gardiner. I work for Ecolab. I don't know how many of you have heard of Ecolab. If you've been in the Twin Cities for a while, you probably have. I guess a small company at $14 billion. We've got 47,000 associates globally, and we have roughly a presence in roughly 170 different countries. So a very large footprint. And this year is our 100th anniversary, which you may or may not be privy to, which is pretty cool. The business was founded with a carpet cleaning product for hotels, because back then, 100 years ago, a hotel had to clean the carpet here. They would remove the carpet out of the room, take it away, clean it, and then bring it back and put it in. So that was the process. And Osborne developed this product that would clean it in place. So that was really the foundation. Founded in St. Paul, Minnesota, and here we are. Some 100 years later. We've made over 50 acquisitions, so that's roughly one acquisition every other year, and I would say that as time has progressed, we are way more active than we have been historically with the acquisition. Our largest acquisition was Nalco Water, which is a large water treatment business out of Naperville. And most recently, our second largest acquisition, which occurred a few years back, which is Purelight, which is in the pharmaceutical industry. So just a little background on what we do. And my job at Ecolab is Vice President of Global Business Transformation. Simply put, my job is to integrate our ERP. So that's what I do, which will enable digital. I've been with Ecolab since 1999, and I started as a frontline salesperson, so I am not an IT person, so to say. However, I've been doing ERP work for 5 years now or something like that. So my job is really to make sure that we're commercially taking care of the business, we're taking care of the customers and the associates when we do deployments. So I'll talk a little bit about our ERP journey. It's open, so please ask questions as we move on. I'm happy to answer them. But I thought it would be applicable here to give us a little background on what we do from an ERP standpoint and why we're doing it. So it's really to enable a customer experience. So with 53 acquisitions, hey, let's say they're not all in the same instance of SAP. Most aren't even on SAP when we acquire them. So we really want to pull it all together and create this one global customer experience. We have very large global customers, so McDonald's is one, Weston's one, Marriott's one, Hilton is another. We've got, we're all over the place. So if you start looking for our trucks, you'll see them on the roads, you'll see the hand care, you'll realize that we're in more areas than you may have not seen. So Starbucks out there as well, a customer of ours, and the list goes on and on and on. From food processing to dairies to operating rooms, we manufacture drapes of all things that go on equipment in operating rooms, to spraying for cockroaches and killing rats in a hotel. I mean, you name it. It's a wide gamut from operating room to the hotel room. I mean, it's all over the place. So huge company, many different customers that actually utilize different divisions. So you may have the Weston here today that's buying from pest elimination, is also buying from institutional, that may be buying from food and beverage and water as well, which therein lies this customer experience. So if we're in multiple different divisions and some were acquired, they may have a different looking or different customer experience, how they order, how they pay their invoice. It can be very cumbersome getting 4 different invoices that look completely different, and where do I apply the cash, and it's quite a mess. So my job is really to consolidate that and to deliver this customer experience in conjunction with our digital team. And then, of course, is to drive these common processes and capabilities globally. So we've got a very structured governance process in place around how the ERP changes and what we do when we do a change. Our prior CFO who just retired, Dan Schmeckel, put in place this strict governance, and I think it's absolutely right that, he would always say, the ERP is not a hobby garden, it's not to go play around in. So we've got these strict governance processes around how we actually work in the ERP, and we utilize Mindset for some of the changes, which I'll talk about later. But the ambition is really to have a common set of processes around the globe that our team utilizes so that we can, when we expat and we move folks from division to division, they already know how the thing works, which is pretty cool. We also have a deployment execution strategy and system leverage. So this is one landing place, our SAP ERP for M&A. Okay, so we've had a long tail of M&A that we're putting on. Some we just put on our Microtech business, which is a drapes business. Roughly 18 years ago, we acquired this business and just put them on globally last year. So we are really catching up with the M&A now, and then we're spreading out internationally, which I'll talk a little bit about in our roadmap. But ultimately, we want to move our businesses over to SAP as quickly as possible for many, many reasons: process, tax, etc. And then, you know, the talent piece I talked about, moving folks cross-divisionally, cross-functionally. They know how to operate in the system. We do bring our high potential talent into the deployments, okay? So not only is it an opportunity for them to learn a new skill, it really expands their knowledge of how things actually work. And that was kind of my segue into this. I was leading our Canadian business back when we deployed Canada, and I was there for a few years, and they said, "Hey, Aaron, we would like for you to do the ERP." I said, "Hell no, I don't want to have anything to do with ERP. In fact, I don't even really know what it is. I know that our finance controller gives me the numbers, and I know what's good and what's not. I do know how to read a P&L, but I don't operate in an ERP. So, nope, I don't want to have anything to do with that." The second time they asked me, I said, "No, absolutely not. I really love what I'm doing because I'm having fun. We're hitting our targets, and I really like the talent aspect." And then the third time, they just told me I was doing it. So that's how I entered into the ERP space. "Aaron, you're going to do this." And it turned out that I learned so much about how our business operates. And I'm a strong advocate for talent being in and exposed to a deployment, because there's really no other space where you can learn end-to-end how we operate or how a company operates. So I'm a huge advocate for the talent leverage and talent opportunities, and I tell the story many times on how I got into it. When we are getting a new deployment going and we're trying to attract talent to the deployment, we've learned that the best talent is absolutely essential because it will fail without that. And then all of our deployments, of course, are business-led. So it's not an IT project, it's a business project, and that's really why I am part of it. So our journey, you know, as mentioned, we're a 100-year-old company, but we had mainframe and we had a number of antiquated ERPs. We began the journey in 2007 in Europe. So we really wanted to get after Europe for many, many reasons, and we began there and took all of Europe and put it on EBS, which is our SAP solution, and began that there. And let's say it didn't go perfect. We learned a lot through the process, and we sent our best talent over there to work on that. And then we rounded out Europe about 2010. And then we pivoted over to China, and we got all of China on our SAP solution. And then we began in the United States, which was really Canada. So when we look at North America, it's United States, Canada. I think the team made a really, really solid decision when they decided, hey, we're going to deploy North America. In North America, 90% of the revenue and operating income really resides in the U.S., and you don't want to screw that up, obviously. So we deployed Canada first, which needed the similar functionality to that of the U.S. So when we deployed Canada, 10% of the risk. Of North America, no problem. We deployed the solution. It took 15 months to deploy that solution, many bumps. The good news is from a manufacturing standpoint, we could secure product in the U.S., so we had contingency plans in place, and in fact needed to use them for a few different products. But nonetheless, we deployed Canada, and then we came to the U.S. and delivered the U.S., and then now we're on this journey internationally, which I will talk about as we get going. So really, we had a 2 ERP strategy. So Our CIO said, hey, you know, we want to really have our mega markets, which is China, Europe, and North America on SAP. Let's invest in those markets. That's where most of the revenue comes from. Let's put them on SAP, and then let's use a plug-and-play solution, Oracle Cloud, for all of international. Okay, so we'll just take this Oracle solution out of the box, and we'll plug it in internationally, and everything's going to be great. Well, guess what? The complexity in international really is very similar to what we have in the mega markets as well. We already have a built solution that is adequate and works well, and we're constantly modifying it and updating it and delivering process improvements. So that, I guess, secondary system really didn't pan out quite well. We deployed it in one country, Malaysia, and then we made a strategic decision to say, hey, let's use SAP globally. And that decision was made roughly a year ago. So now we're doing all of international all on this instance of EBS, okay? So that's really the ambition to deliver one ERP globally and to have all of our businesses on that. Yeah. We will. So that's actually going next, and I'll get into that in the Gantt chart where I talk about what waves and how we're going to do it. But yeah, we're going to terminate Oracle in Malaysia. It'll be done. So, and Malaysia was chosen because there's no supply chain footprint, which made sense. So you put all the commercial processes on there, and then they're building up the supply chain and found there were many challenges when we already had the thing built. So I think the right decision came out of it in the long run. And so let's talk a little bit about our ERP and what our team does. So our ERP team is global. We've got associates all over the world. We have them in China, a big technical team in China, obviously India as well, a big contingent in Europe. We started in Europe. We brought over a number of resources from some well-known consulting firms in Europe. And then we've got a large contingent here in North America. So what does our team do, and what are we going to be working on for until we really migrate to S4? Number one is data archiving and support packs, so we do that ongoing, obviously, and the team works on that. We've got global template improvement implementation, so this is what Mindset's really been supportive of. So we've got a number of change requests that we approve and implement monthly, and then we've got a large order-to-cash project that Rob has been working with the team on hand in hand. It's been outstanding. We've got a bit of a bumpy order to cash through the pandemic. That was a really challenged area for obvious reasons, but as well our customer hierarchy and the things I mentioned about having multiple divisions, multiple invoices. It gets rather confusing, and when they pay an invoice, it's like where do you put that money towards? It's tough. So we've solicited some support on that. So the order to cash project that we're working on is going quite well. So the change request component as well as the order to cash component is really where we've utilized Mindset. And I would just say that we're constantly improving the ERP like many organizations. And we look at the change request from a benefit effort standpoint as well. So we're not going to just deploy something small. We've got executive level support that says, hey, I don't want to do that. That makes no sense. The investment doesn't deliver the payoff. So in this case, we do the benefit and effort, and then they approve it. We're working on our S4 migration as well, so trying to have a solidified template, and then we'll migrate to S4. And we've got a different instance in Europe, we've got a different instance in China, and we want to consolidate that and then move to S4 holistically. And then in conjunction with this, we're doing international deployments. So we've got Asia Pacific, Latin America, and IMEA that we're working on as well with multiple work streams, which I'll get into here in a moment. And then to layer on top of that, we've got business deployments, global business deployments, Microtech, BioQuil, Instranet, Maribor, our WPS, which is our water process service business, which does water filtration, reverse osmosis, softening, et cetera. And then our animal health business, which is called SID-Lines, we're going to be doing that as well. So you take all the international stuff that we're deploying, and then you take all the acquisition businesses, all of those are acquisitions. You take those, and that's what the team's working on, all in conjunction with the change requests and everything else. So let's say the team's slightly busy, but it works. We've got a very, very talented and experienced team that go out and deliver. So I won't get into each of these, but we'll look at 2023 just to give you a snapshot of all the teams working on. So if you go to Asia Pacific there, in Greater China, you'll see Korea, Thailand, Vietnam. That's an in-flight deployment right now. We'll be going live in July, and that is taking all the legacy ERPs and putting it all on EBS or our SAP solution. And then our next one, which is our largest wave in Asia Pacific, is Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and Malaysia. So Malaysia, to your question earlier, Gavin, Malaysia's on Oracle Cloud. We're going to move it over to our solution EBS during that deployment. We've got a huge footprint in Australia and New Zealand, both in the dairy for New Zealand and then a large industrial business and healthcare business in Australia. So pretty significant work there. And we're moving talent all over the globe. And it's really been interesting, I would say, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier. So my calls and my meetings are, sometimes midnight, sometimes 5 a.m. I mean, it's truly a global effort, which is somewhat fun in the evenings and in the mornings. But nonetheless, it's a really cool experience to see. I was in a plant when I was in Australia last month, and I was walking around this plant where they manufacture industrial chemicals, institutional chemicals, healthcare chemicals, and pest elimination products, okay? So all in this one facility. Guess what? 4 ERPs in that one facility. It's a large plant in Dara, okay? 4 ERPs. So then when the healthcare folks are working on their stuff and they don't have any more work to do, guess what? They're done because they're not cross-trained on the other ERPs. So you want to talk about a significant opportunity to improve productivity. It's to just put in one, So, and some of this is, honestly, it's a byproduct of acquisitions. I mean, it's not their fault. They're doing what they can do. But when I was there and I was telling them about, hey, we can be all on one, and you can standardize and centralize the activities, and they're like, when can we do this? Which isn't always the response to, hey, we're going to go deploy SAP. Usually, but in these international markets, they really want it, and they see the benefits. So that's Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, and then we've got India, the Philippines, Japan, and China next. So that'll round out AP for us. And then we're working, obviously, on the Americas, the Latin America, where we just kicked off Mexico in Mexico City last month. So that's going, and then you can see the rest with LA. With Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and so on and so forth. I won't get into all the details, but let's say there's quite a number of deployments that we have in flight, and deployment size really varies, but it's around 60 associates, and then we've got a central team doing a lot of the additional work, but roughly 60, and we utilize a two-in-the-box methodology, so we would have somebody from IT and somebody from the business that works on a specific function, which balances things out. And typically the business associate has never done a deployment before. So they'll come in, they'll understand, they'll learn, they'll deliver the deployment, and then they'll typically spin out into a bigger role than what they came in as. So it's typically a developmental opportunity and a promotional opportunity coming out, but not always the case, but that's what we do look to do. So that's what our roadmap looks like. You will see the light blue column on the far right-hand side of the slide. That is really our S4 migration, and when we plan to really begin that. When we begin that migration over to S4, we'll shut down all the deployment activity and really focus on that. Okay, so that's something the team will be working on during that time frame. And then we're also moving from on-prem to off-prem. We're doing that this year. So, I mean, there's so much happening, and our CEO is really dedicated to this customer and quite frankly, our associate experience, and this will obviously be the foundation for that. So that's what it looks like overall. And then we've got, if you've been part of deployments, you've probably seen these gates, but how are we going to accomplish all of this with structure and standardization with teams all over the world? We've really put together a solid format where we will send in a business readiness team. So they'll land in Australia, they'll land in Kuala Lumpur, or they'll land in Mexico City. And they'll work with the local team to standardize all this readiness activity that needs to take place. So everywhere, everything from master data to process alignments and all this stuff. It's that set team. And when they finish that, we kick off solution confirmation, and that set team bounces to the next wave, okay? So they have set KPIs, set objectives that they go deliver right up front, and then we kick off the deployment afterwards, which you've seen deployment. I don't need to get into great detail, but solution confirmation, you've got your ITC, UAT, and then go live, and then the hypercare piece, which is usually about a month to a month and a half, depending upon the complexity of the deployment. And then they'll spin off onto the next one within Latin America or wherever else. So that's what we follow from a deployment standpoint. We've got specific tollgate reviews where we approve and share the KPIs, and we'll be allowed to go into the next phase, if you will. So what does our future look like? Really, the ambition's to have 90% of our sales on EBS. We know that there's going to be acquisitions coming in, and when they come in, we'll deploy. We won't touch Russia. We do have some business in Russia. Don't know what the future there is, obviously, but they're on 1C. But we will have everything else on EBS, which is our overall ambition. And then we've got, which the ERP enables, we've got centers of excellence, and that's where you'll see the yellow stars, where we do a lot of our COE activities, whether it's customer service or credit billing and collections and things like that. So accounting, AP, et cetera. So that's kind of the overall. And where you see no color, we don't have an ERP presence there today. We utilize distributors or something like that, but everywhere is going to have essentially EBS or our SAP. So that's really our journey, I guess, a little background on our organization, as well as our journey and what we're trying to accomplish with a consolidated and one footprint ERP. So questions for me? I mean, that's really the gist of where we're going and what we've done.
Hello? Okay.
Yep, gotcha.
So when you guys are rolling out, do you guys use an agile methodology, or is it continuously waterfall when you guys are rolling out to different countries and all that stuff?
Agile from the stance that we do go in and we do solution confirmation, so we'll understand what the needs are there. We won't just go force a solution on there. But is that what you mean, or what exactly?
No, I guess what I mean is, like, do you do like 2-week sprints to churn out things, churn and burn, basically?
Not really. No, we'll do full
Okay.
deployment. Yeah. Yeah, and you've got multiple languages in those waves. So you saw, like, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam has been, let's say, bumpy because you've got all these different languages, and yeah, it's not quick. It's more, let's make this work for the business and do what's right. And we will really be careful not to just jam it in.
My question is regarding your S4 journey, right? So I think you have 3 instances currently.
Yep.
And your plan is to go in 2025 to 1 S4. Have you figured out, will you be doing big bang, or what's your plan for your S4 journey?
Great question. So as we're deploying international, we have Nalco Water, which, as I mentioned earlier, is our largest acquisition. They're on Nalco SAP, which is different than EBS. There are 8 countries, large countries internationally, that are on Nalco SAP, okay? So what we're doing is we're consolidating those internationally first onto EBS. So that's moving out of Nalco SAP. We'll leave America, Europe, and China alone, okay? So then everything internationally will be on, but the 3 mega markets will be on 3 different instances. We'll consolidate Nalco SAP into EBS, move EBS to S4. So that's how it's going to work. Yeah, there will be steps, obviously, but it won't be, boom, everybody's on. We're going to move all into EBS and then move it on. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Hey, question on, I think one of your opening slides, you talked about sort of the overall mission to improve customer experience.
Yep.
Right? There's a ton of really exciting things happening with a lot of M&A, right, and platform and sort of standardization. How well can you balance the need for, obviously, building this platform is, I think, a big part of that, but responding to needs to refine that customer experience itself and the nuance that even when you have one platform, you still need to continuously optimize within that customer experience. So how do you sort of balance those two, like, very large goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how do you optimize customer experience when it's really not the future state? So if you've got somebody on a different ERP, how are we managing that? We have a digital team that does tie into the ERPs globally, but we really want to get the platform in and then start, you know, the work. But the digital team is doing a bunch in conjunction to that. And I'll tell you, our CEO, this is his mission. It is one Ecolab experience, because we've, you know, the customers don't give a rip about what division are you in. They don't care. They want to see one invoice. They want one place to go and order. And, you know, we really are driving towards that with this. But the digital team is working to consolidate as well in conjunction. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's really the ambition. Not to look like many different companies, which is not at all conducive to growth. And then it exposes cross-selling too, which is something that I didn't even touch on. So when we have the West, and maybe they're not buying our pest elimination, they probably are here, but just as an example. So now we have all this data and it's all consolidated. We've got one customer number here and we can see exactly what's happening, which gives us an opportunity to really cross-sell and penetrate the customer. That's kind of the idea. So digital experience, yes, but growth potential as well. Yeah.
Question for you. So your divisions, they're not all cookie cutter, right? They have different needs.
Not even close, yeah.
Yeah, right. They may be services, they may be products, different types of regulation, et cetera.
Totally.
How are you, and then you're going geographically too, right? So across countries. So how are you managing that with one instance? Easy answer for a lot of companies is, all right, we're just not going to deal with that one instance, too complicated. Let's just stand up something else and keep moving forward. You guys are taking the opposite approach, obviously.
Yeah, wonderful question, because our healthcare division in Europe has so many different regulations by country, right? So you sell something in Germany, where is the product manufactured? And you know, you can't always move from country to country, et cetera. Europe's got a lot of regulations. So we are building it in the ERP, actually. I mean, we work extensively with R&D, with the tax team, with the regulatory team to make sure it's compliant before we do any of that. But the ambition's really to do it there. And go ahead.
Yeah, are those teams centralized, like tax, regulatory, or do you have to go country by country?
Both.
Okay.
So we have a centralized tax, we have centralized regulatory, but we also have a European-based regulatory team that we work with as well, and tax. So
you don't have to answer this question, but how are you compensated?
Great question. How am I compensated? It has nothing to do with this. I would say the performance of the deployments keeps me in my job. So yeah, hope that helps. Great question.
Sorry, one more for me.
Yeah.
When you're looking at so many different kinds of processes and you're taking these from multiple systems, I assume there's a period as you're trying to figure out what's the best process by deployment and picking and choosing how you build the future state as you standardize. Do you use any sort of tools for, call it process monitoring or process mining, or trying to understand the state and how divergent it is? And if you do, kind of what they are, or what would they be? Or if you don't, how are you determining, how are you trying to understand your landscape, I guess, and all the complexities that are out there?
Yeah, we solicited some help from a third party to build. We utilized their process mining tool to go in and to look at all of our processes. Where are the redundant stops along the chain, if you will? Let's say we didn't get a lot out of that. To be honest, we spun it for a few. We had 6 processes that we utilized. Here's my perspective on it. We utilize this tool to find problems. And I don't know that that's the right answer. I think it's where's our big problem and let's utilize a tool of process mining to go and fix those issues. I think we deployed it the wrong way, and I own that. I mean, that was under my watch in this role. I think we will be utilizing some other items in process mining to help along the way. But it is a big deal for us to not only train, but also to consolidate where we can. Yeah.
You don't use that anymore?
Well, we do. We've got the 6 versions, but we didn't expand beyond the 6. Yeah, they helped us with 6 different ones. Not bad. We got benefit out of it. We were able to improve, but it didn't realize the benefit that, let's say, was anticipated. And I just think we were trying to find problems versus solving problems. It was just I think our approach wasn't what it should have been.
You said you use Ecolab?
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Aaron, John Kosnick with Cargill. We're also going on a digital transformation journey, moving to S4. I was curious, you had mentioned a few activities you're doing in preparation for that, right? You're moving everybody to one instance. I think I saw that you're doing some, well, what was that task? I don't have it in my notes now, but I saw you guys were doing a couple tasks, like important things in order to prepare for that move to S4. Can you speak to a little bit more of those key activities that you're performing? I think I saw, it was data archiving,
Yeah.
maybe some clean core you're doing. Is there any other, like, say, key activities that you guys are doing in order to prepare for your move?
Yep, for sure. So I'll just do it at a high level, okay? It's the 3rd chevron down. First is a global template extension. So we're going to take our global template, which is North America and a few other businesses. We're going to extend it. Remember, I told you Europe was first, and then China. We're going to extend that template to Europe and China. So we're going to be consolidated then on one template of EBS. So if you're on EBS in Europe, you're going to be on the global template. China, you're going to be on the global template, which doesn't talk to our Nalco SAP, which I mentioned earlier. That's separate. Then we're going to take Nalco SAP and move that into the global template and then move over to S4. So what else are we doing? It's data archiving, as mentioned earlier. We're making sure that all the support pack upgrades are done. And then we'll migrate, obviously, to S4. Some of it, the on-prem to off-prem, we're doing that this year as well, and we've got a team getting ready for this now. There's a lot more activities, but this is just high-level stuff, what we're working on for S4. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it did. I was just seeing, I know you mentioned the other ones.
Yeah.
See if there's anything additional that just came to your mind.
That's really, I mean, we want to move as much as we can. So when you look at our roadmap, you'll see a lot of international, if not all of international, is going to be done when we start in 2025. So the ambition is really to get it all on and then move it over. And we've looked at many different ideas. Well, why don't you start now? Or why don't you take a business on to S4 now? Aaron, you guys are deploying Purelight. Why don't you just deploy Purelight into S4? Well, then we've got another instance. It's like, let's just move it all in. And that way there's less change for some of those businesses. So that's kind of the ambition.
No, and it's good to hear this experience because Cargill's doing the same thing. We're a large multinational too.
Yeah.
So it's good to bounce ideas off of each other and hear different experiences.
For sure. Yeah, and I think we may be underscoring the complexity of the associate impact and change management piece, but let's see. We've got a bit of time before we really hit it hard in 2025.
So I actually have 2 questions. Do you guys currently have an MDG solution that you use?
We have what?
MDG?
Not
Master Data
familiar,
Governance?
so
No?
no.
And then secondary, are you guys trying to automate your testing?
No. No automated testing for a lot of reasons, especially in UAT. I mean, that's really where our lead users and our future workers in the system will work and understand it and that training happens there. So we have not automated testing. No. Could we automate an ITC? Maybe. But I feel confident in what the team does and from a testing perspective. It's a push. I mean, we're in the middle of testing for UAT, user acceptance testing for Korea, Thailand, Vietnam. It is a steep curve in what test scripts need to happen. The team's working around the clock, so what do you hear, right? It's like, Aaron, we need more resources, or Aaron, we got to move the go live date. And it's like, hold this thing, because just wait. We've got contingency built in. Of course, we don't always communicate that, but there's always this hey, we're just going to punt the go live. That's easy. Yeah, well, our burn rate's $1 million a month, so we don't want to do that. So no automation, and we really leverage that from a training perspective. If an associate actually goes through the UAT and the end-to-end test, they understand how everything works. I'd hate to automate some of that stuff. Maybe I'm antiquated. I don't know. That's our deployment methodology anyway.
So with your S4, I guess, journey, have you done your assessment? And with your assessment, have you figured out what type of deployment approach?
Not yet.
Is it like a brownfield, bluefield?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
No. Good question, but we're not there yet. All hands on deck for this, right now.
Have you done any value realization for S4? Just kind of talked about what you're looking to accomplish there with SAP, or?
We've spent a little bit of time with them. Of course, they want to deploy it as soon as possible, and they want to deploy all of their bells and whistles, which is great, but not in the weeds yet.
Okay. Not even a high level, we expect to, benefit from a business perspective, business case associated to it?
Not yet. I've
Okay.
kind of kept, the main reason is from a support perspective right now. So it's like, okay, so we got to be there by 2027, as everybody's well aware. This is kind of a must-do. We've kicked the can down the road long enough, and that's really the ambition. Now, when we really tackle it, we'll get after value add, and what's the true benefit of that? What's the cost and what's the benefit? And we'll get in the weeds. We're not there yet. We've got the team working on all kinds of stuff, as you see here. But great question. Yeah, it's coming soon. I mean, we'll need to start really getting after that 2024-ish to lead us in. For successful kickoff mid-25 is what I'm thinking. Anything else? So how dissimilar are what we're doing from what you guys are doing in other organizations? Is it similar, different? Taking on more or less? Or? Yeah.
It's a lot, a lot of different countries, deployments. I think it's, I don't know, of the companies I know here, it feels to me one of the more complex ones.
Okay.
Tom, do you have anything to reflect that to Tom from 3M?
I also just add that, Gavin, in a much more compressed time frame, I think, that you have,
Yeah.
most companies will, maybe resourcing or a lot of competing priorities, it'll turn into a 5-8-year program.
For sure. Yeah, we kind of put this wall there, which is mid-25, as you see here, and it's like, all right, we want to work to that wall, and we jammed it in. We'll see. We'll see. It's a lot, and I think having what's been really cool is having our C-suite. We meet with them every month. We do a review. And Christoph, our CEO, is just, he is a full supporter of this digital integration, and he knows this is a foundation to go and make that happen for our customer experience. So we have full executive support, which will enable resources when we need them, which is a unique environment, I would say. It's not always been that way. Getting the right people on, we scrutinize the talent that enters a deployment, because I've led this team when it's been like, well, here, take John or take Sally or take whoever, and yeah, what's their plan next? Well, their head count was going away, and it's like, okay, wrong person. Or, what I look at is, I want this person on the deployment, and well, no, you can't have them because they're so critical. Good, I have the right person, now I just need to go get them. That's kind of how our talent selection happens, and then it's approved at the C-level. The folks that come in. I mean, it's taken very seriously, so we do get what we need typically. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's that time. Thank you. Thank you for the time today.